Okie dokie. So we are now. Wait, where's the thing? That's the thing I'm looking for. All right. So now we're live. Hey everybody, welcome to another Get to Know Music Person. There we go. You're unmuted. Where it's something I've been doing since we all got locked in our houses, sort of thing. And so I've been kind of interviewing different music people local to Camrose area, because like including Wetaskiwin, Gwyn, all these things. I have to state that too, because my guest today is Deanna Didriksen, who is local to Camrose, we'll say, but actually you're out in Gwyn. Yeah. She's a music teacher out in Gwyn, so she teaches voice and piano, and she's been involved. How I've gotten to know her a bit more is through the Battle River Big Band. And she does a lot of work with them, and she sings with them. So if you've ever seen the big band, which you probably should if you haven't yet, she's the singer. She's the person who stands in front of us all. It makes us look bad. No, as in like the rest of, I mean, like as in like you're the talent. And it's like, oh, we're just playing behind you, I guess. I mean, we don't. Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, this is an instrumental. We need the singer back. Come on. So anyhow. Hey, Deanna, how's it going? Is it great? I mean, yesterday I drove my parents to the airport, and that was a fun, like, what the temperature difference from like this morning to yesterday? Oh, it was freezing yesterday, and like it was pouring, and yeah, I'm glad the sun's out. I'm gonna go as soon as as soon as we're done here. I'm just gonna go hang out outside. So, so what's new? What's happening? How's your COVID quarantine going? That's good. I mean, no, you can talk about the enjoyment of COVID. Oh, I think, oh, you might be a little quiet. Let me just, your volume isn't on at all. Okay, now your volume's on. Good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good.
There
All
you
right.
go. Sorry, everybody. So Deanna's been camping. Talk about your camping
Yeah.
again, because,
So I've been out, a number of times with my family and friends and stuff, and it's just been just a good way to enjoy, this time. And we normally go camping, so if we can find good weather and a couple hiking spots, it's great.
yeah.
So that's sort of how we've been spending our summer, and mowing the grass because with all the rain, right? So it's just
Yeah.
two activities this summer: mowing, camping.
But I think like you're in Alberta, so it's a little nicer for that when, you don't have to go very far to
Right.
just be away from stuff.
I know.
How is the camping stuff? I just wanted to ask about that. Like, how are campgrounds
Pretty good.
and stuff? They're
They're
nothing
good.
like,
They're full. Everybody's, it's a great activity to do. And yeah, they're pretty good. They, as far as amenities go,
yeah.
there aren't, the showers aren't running,
Right.
but everything else is, there's running water at
Okay.
most. And yeah, it's all pretty normal. So the lakes are kind of grungy right now.
It's
but
Alberta water. That's how
Yeah.
it works.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of like I take my dog out for walks around just Mirror Lake and Camrose, and at the start of the summer it was lovely, and then right now it's like green algae and stuff. It's not pleasant. But whatever.
Yeah.
So and also like we went out to Tilcombe, like we went.
Oh, yeah.
And like seaweed all over, like just like people would pull their boats out and there'd just be seaweed. Just it's lovely. All right, but this isn't a show about camping. This is a show about music, and we're getting to learn about Deanna. So Deanna plays with the big band, and because her
Yeah.
mic was off, I was making fun of how she's the one who's the talent in the big band. Well, not the talent, the one that's everybody just wants to see. So, how did you start into music anyway? Like, how did you?
Okay.
Yeah, let's go from
Back
the very
in the
beginning.
day. Okay, we'll go start at the beginning.
Totally.
Okay, so I come from a, pretty musical family. We all like to sing, and I grew up taking piano lessons. I started really young when I was 4, and we lived in Stony Plain, and my mom would take me into Edmonton for Yamaha lessons, group lessons.
Okay.
And we're all sitting at an organ. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember sitting at organs. Each of us were sort of in a group, and we got to do musical activities together. And so I did that for a little bit, and then started up with a private teacher in Stony Plain, Mrs. Hodges,
Okay.
and Carol Hodges. And so that was when I was in grade 2, started taking private lessons. And we moved around a little bit growing up. So for a little bit, my mom was teaching us girls up in northern Alberta, and there were no piano teachers there. So about a year and a half, she helped us out, and our piano teacher that we had in Stony Plain also sent music and stuff.
Okay.
And that was kind of cool. And then when we moved out of the north, we went to Wetaskiwin. And that's where I got connected with Mr. Hodges, Murray Hodges, who was husband to Carol. So he was working from he drove from Stony Plain down to Wetaskiwin to teach at the school we started to go to in Wetaskiwin. So yeah, so it was cool. He was the band teacher.
Okay.
And so he hooked me up with my piano teacher, Gail Anderson.
Okay.
And I took private piano lessons from Gail for a number of years in Wetaskiwin, and then stopped lessons and got more into vocal stuff in high school.
Okay.
And yeah, around grade 10, I stopped taking lessons and then went into, well, I was still in it. I was singing this whole time, but I was in jazz cats and concert choir and all that good stuff. So
okay.
Awesome.
You were in band then? Like, what instrument did you play in band?
So in band in junior high, I picked up the flute because when we moved, it was partway through the year. So Mr. Hodges said, just, try the flute. We'll see if that works. And it was great. Very, it worked out really well because I could read music. So it just, so I played that throughout junior high. And then in high school, I got more into the choral scene and didn't do band in high school. Not at all? So no. So I was playing piano still and, keeping active with piano. And I started teaching a bit too, actually, piano while I was in high school. Okay. But yeah, got into singing way more. Yeah. And that was awesome. It was just, yeah.
So you said niche. You had always been singing, but when was the first, what was the first choir or group you sang with? Do you remember?
Well, I mean, when I was very young, I sang in a music festival in St. Albert.
Okay.
I think it was St. Albert. And so we, this little song about buttoning up your coat or something. So, but in our family, we've always sung traveling in our cars for long trips and stuff like that. And any choir, church choir, whatever that we were involved in, we were in there, we were singing. And even, in Wetaskiwin, had a little choir at our children's choir at church that we did a little bit of singing there. Okay. And trying to think of all the different choral things.
Because it's always I'm always just curious about that because some people, they don't really start singing till later, or they just don't have experience singing with others as much. So you would have started extremely young then, just because of your family. You annoy your parents in the vehicle or whatever was singing.
We just sang it to everything. I mean, we listened to lots of music. We listened to the radio. We, got, I don't know, lots of soundtracks to shows. And so a good mix of music. And, we get, I don't know, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat or some kind of, famous show on and pop it in and
just go
start singing. Yeah. Phantom of the Opera, start singing.
Oh, could y'all hit the high note in that?
Oh, we tried.
You tried.
Yeah, Christine would be proud. Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure "proud's" the right word for that? I don't know.
Give it our best shot.
That was always, that kind of stuff would play in my household too, like my parents' place and stuff. But we would just more annoy them with, down by the bay, and you just make up really not the most pleasant ending lines, but
no.
And just
those are good times.
Yeah, good times. And so high school, you were more in choir, just doing all the choral things. And so what level were you in piano when you kind of
I had completed my grade 8 exam when I was in grade 10 at school. Okay. And at that point, I think after that year, going into grade 11, at that point, it was kind of what am I going to do? I didn't really know if I was going to be going into music. I didn't really know what direction things were going to go. Okay. And I just overloaded myself with tons of science courses at school. So I took every science that was available.
Okay.
And I had told myself I was going to be a pharmacist.
Okay.
And
apparently that didn't happen.
No. No, it didn't. No, because by the time I was in grade 12, I was like, oh, if I have to do like, I mean, I like science.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, I like the information. I like all that stuff. But then I thought, if I have to do more university of this, I don't think I'm gonna like this
Yeah.
isn't gonna be me. And it wasn't. I mean, in high school, I did all the courses I could, but I was still involved after school in choir and in jazz cats. And I didn't live like most musicians didn't live in the band room. I just had the two things to be a part of during that, because I had to do my homework for the other classes, right?
Right.
Because that was gonna work out.
All those sciences.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so so no, I mean, I really found I enjoyed singing too much, and applied to a couple different universities in grade 12 and got into
Okay.
Augustana, and it just felt like a good fit. I went on a tour, and
Right.
it was pretty good. So
I went to Augustana too. And so what year? I must have like missed your year because you were in choir and everything.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I would have been
So
2001 was my first year. So
and that was, I graduated in 2001. So
okay, so we
I
would
had
have just
finished,
missed each
and then
other.
you started that September. Then yeah.
Because I sang with Mark Half, so like in the
Oh, me
choir
too.
and
Yeah.
all those things. So
Yeah.
go ahead with your university story though.
Well, I don't know if I have much.
You don't?
much
You
to
just went
say.
to
I mean,
university and
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, at university, it was just going into. I mean, I got the arts degree. I have an arts degree in music, so it wasn't at that time. It wasn't a music degree.
right. Like
Like a
that
Bachelor
was
of
my
Music.
first year is when
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I went in for. So it was an arts
Right.
degree in
In
music.
music. And did you have what was your instrument? Voice then?
Voice.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had Kathleen, I think it says. Okay, so if anyone wants, I linked it in the description, but her website, because I can't say it because it doesn't make sense. It's a weird. I'm making fun of it. I'm sorry. It's her website is deannadidriksen.wixsite.com/Deanna Didriksen/ or there's no / music lessons. That's just the page I have linked there.
Right.
But that's her website, and you can check it out. Her bio's there. That's where I'm stealing some of this information from that I had to read ahead of time, so I know my people. So, but yeah, you had Kathleen as your vocal
Yeah.
instructor. Okay. Who were the other
Yeah, she was
vocal
great.
coaches, instructors at the time? Do you
At the
know?
school?
Yeah, because when I went, it was
Boy. Well, Charlene was there, right?
Yeah.
Like Charlene. And
because Joyanne was there when I was.
yeah, Joyanne.
Was
I
she?
think, yeah.
Okay.
I think she was there when I was there. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I'm trying to think who else.
I
Well,
don't-
Mark
Mark
would
did
teach the
yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Um,
Was that it? That might have been it.
I feel like there was another person.
Yeah. I'm probably blanking.
Oh, I'm blanking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Memory's not so hot. It's been a long
It's
time.
I don't like to think of how long it's been. Honestly, I'm like, we're 2020. No thanks, I'm good.
No.
Uh,
Just leave it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it was it a 3 or 4 year program at the time?
4 year.
4 year? Okay.
Yeah.
And that was art, so you had to do like things that weren't music.
Right.
So were you like a science minor at least? Or
So no, I
you just gave up on
I
science?
did take when I went in, like I did have to take a science component. So I
Right,
took a
yeah.
bio course.
Okay.
I was like, bio should be good. So I took that, and then I had to take a math one, and that was a little bit more daunting. I was like, but then there was this computers one, like an intro to computers course or something, and I was like, yes. So
Yeah.
that worked out, yeah. And I'm trying to think any other wacky ones. You had to have some history in there.
Yeah, yeah.
I did some women's studies courses, and then I took a lot of English courses. So
Okay.
I thought maybe I'll do an English minor, and I ended up doing, I don't know, I didn't want to be bound to certain, having to do certain things, whatever. And so I ended up taking more music courses. I don't think it
Okay.
mattered at the time how many courses you took. I mean, as long as you could kind of do them all. Like,
Okay.
I managed to jam in tons of classes. And so I did mostly music, and then a bunch of English. At first I was going to have an English minor, then I dropped it
Okay.
because I wanted to do more music stuff.
Right.
And so I just sort of tailored it, because you could at that time, just how it was. You got the stuff to satisfy the other courses of the arts degree. And then I did lots of music courses and lots of English. So yeah, that's sort of how that
That's
went. It was good. It was a busy 4 years.
yeah, yeah.
So, and then I sang in the Augustana Choir
Right.
and I sang in Encore for those 4 years. So
Nice.
that was good. I mean, that was
Yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah, like I only did the 2 years, but yeah, I sang with both those two, and they're fun. Like they were, I liked Encore a lot just because of the
Yeah.
music, and that's my jam. More so than I'd probably go into a rant about classical music now, but so I won't, because
Okay.
this is your interview.
Okay.
But it's like
Next interview. Yeah.
jazz is more of like where I'd feel like if I were to think about it more over the time, I probably would have thought about going to like McEwen or something for their contemporary music program.
Yeah.
But I was a camera's boy. I'm like, whatever, I'll just stay here
It works.
and do music. So did you do like there were the jazz nights and things like that? Were you part of those with Encore? Because I don't know
Yeah.
when Encore started. Like I don't know much about.
I should look back to actually get facts, but
That's
yeah, the whole time I was there, we had jazz night each year,
Yeah,
every year. And so that also had Mark's father's
yeah.
group too as a part of it.
That was really
Gordon
cool.
Half. So yeah.
Yeah. That was always
So that was
that's something I kind of miss. Like even as not being a student or whatever, but those kinds of events. Because
Yeah.
those are just really cool. And
it's just so fun. Yeah.
in this town, like talking about even the big band and things like that, like there's no real jazz if you think about it, like no jazz center to this town. So it's like, where did that go? So maybe
Yeah.
we'll have to figure something out with that. I mean, we talked about pre-interview things like, reducing to combo settings in the big band or something, just to get some things out at the beginning. We'll talk about it in a sec.
Yeah. Okay.
So you finished your 4 years, and then
Yeah.
what happened to you? Where'd you go?
Then I worked for a little bit in town and just for a year or two or something. And then I got married and then I had some children. And I mean, big
Yeah.
life things.
The life things. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the while, still trying to be involved in music. And so I taught lessons and stuff, piano lessons, at that time.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think. So Tova and we were roommates, and so
Okay. Yeah.
she was still at Augustana for 1 year while I was teaching and working.
Oh, and for those, I'm just going to segue to this. There is an interview I did with Tova a few weeks ago, so you can check that out on the channel if you're seeing this and you're like, who's Tova? Tova Olsen. So anyhow, you can go check out her interview. Anyhow, continue.
That's okay. And and so I'm trying to think. Yeah, so a couple years spent kind of doing that, and then I'm just trying to think what I was doing. Yeah, I guess after when I
It's
had
just a blur.
kids,
It's just
it kind of is
the
because
important life points: marriage, kids.
yeah, well, when the kids came, it was kind of like, it's busy
Yeah.
time and you run around and trying to learn all that stuff. And it was good though. I was still teaching piano. I taught piano in between naps. So I still had students. And while my children napped, I would teach them.
To me it sounded like between
And
your
that
napping.
I was
you're
napping.
like,
I might
I
have
just
been,
need some
yeah.
naps.
I have a nap and then ding dong, next student. No, so while my kids napped, I was able to sneak in some students. And also during that time, Blue Thistle, the group that you had talked with Tova about in her interview, we kind of formed that. And
Right.
that was such a great group. I think we had started out with three, Tova and Michelle,
Right.
Kennedy Hawkins and myself. And then we expanded to four, and then to five. And overall, the group ran about 7 years. So, yeah. So from the beginnings of let's arrange music for 3-part voices, and we were exploring that and getting into kind of neat stuff. And I don't know, each of us arranged music and even did a little bit of composing. I think each of us maybe did a bit of that too in the group. It was a good way to kind of explore your creativity and stuff, and still stay in the community. For me, it was good being a part of the music community while I had these little kids.
Right.
So I was still connected somehow, and
You didn't disappear or
no,
yeah.
and still, it was a good way to keep up friendships and stuff like that too,
Yeah.
right? Like okay, let's get together and I don't know, create music. And so it was kind of, it was really special, like to kind of have that group put together, and then we got to perform. So this is the other thing, is we made our own events, right? We made our own, like we had a couple of jazz. Well, we had one for sure at Augustana. We had one or two at the Bailey. Where was the other one?
And I feel like I've seen videos of that somewhere. I don't know if it's a music festival thing or something, but I think there's videos of that group. Whether it's on YouTube or something, I don't know where it is.
Yeah, we did we were kind of here and there, just kind of, singing for people's events. And I don't know, the one that we did at the hotel out by the CRE. And that was a big one. So, and yeah, so it's good. It was a really good group. But things happen, life happens. And we were still in it when we moved out to Gwyn. Like I was still a part of it when we moved out to Gwyn, but kind of stuff out here sort of took hold too. And so there was a lot of busyness out here, and, driving in back and forth, and all the different things that life, throws at you. You're kind of like, okay, some things have to take a back burner. So.
Well, and did you leave, like, did the group continue, or is it just kind of?
I don't know, like underneath the name, like, the Blue Thistle, or it was just like the people, because most of the people were involved at church too. So I mean, and used to singing together. So they're still singing together, but I don't know if it was necessarily as that.
Right, that entity.
yeah.
So would you get upset if they sang some of those songs? You'd be like, wait, that's a Blue Thistle song.
Oh no, I don't think that ever happened. But no, I don't.
Okay, fair enough. And so you mentioned you.
Hey.
But I'm just, it's like the Beatles or something.
I know.
Pete Best gets kicked out of the band.
How could you? Yeah.
I mean, he was too pretty for the band anyway. So, by the way, if you are watching this live, you can chat, and if you have questions for Deanna, feel free to drop them in there. You mentioned you did arranging and composing.
A little bit.
I won't go into what we sort of talked about before. What's going on. But like, what kind of things do you arrange and compose?
Now, I mean, not so much, but then we were taking songs that we liked, and some jazz songs and stuff, and just arranging them for a cappella.
Okay.
For 4-part voice or 5-part voice or whatever. So I got, to test my hand at that a little bit. And I also got to, like, maybe if Tova came up with, a tune or whatever, I get to kind of put some lyrics to it or whatever. And that's fun, like being able to pair music together and, make some meaningful lyrics. I think it's just, I don't know, it's lark to be able to figure it out and kind of work at the craft of it, and then go, yeah, that works, or no, this doesn't work, or have to sit on something for a little while because you know where you're going, but it's not quite right.
Right.
And then being able to find the right word or the right turn of phrase or whatever, so that it makes sense to the feel of what you're doing. So, yeah.
Well, and I mean, if you're going with any sort of rhyme scheme or anything too, you don't want to kind of cater the rhyme to a word that doesn't rhyme, where you like make some weird accent to the word just so it rhymes.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Or don't rhyme, never rhyme with the same word either. That's terrible.
No. Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, exactly. You were mentioning before you did some songwriting. You went to some songwriting courses or something like that?
So there's, I wish I could come up with the title of it right now, but there was a songwriting course in Banff, and for 2 summers I went out to that. And it was mostly singer-songwriters that were there with their guitars and stuff. And so I was more kind of like, I show up with a piece of paper and my computer, and because I had some writing software on that to be able to kind of do stuff. And these guys, I think most of them were kind of looking to sort of advance their writing skills so they could kind of get their songs discovered, in a big way for, them to be picked up and whatever. And I was just looking for kind of how do you write songs that actually, get people, I don't know, just kind of resonate with people.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of really good ideas out of that. A lot of good ways of coming up with topics to write about. And, like, how do you start a song? Or there's one part where they talked about how you have maybe a first verse, and then that second verse, like the second verse of the song is always the hardest one to come up with. Like, you've got the first verse and the chorus and all that, but then you're like, okay, now I have to do something different. And so you go into verse 2 and you're like stuck for words. But anyways, ways to kind of work that out. And so that was a really good, I like that, like the workshop both years. It was really good. So
okay.
And then we camped around it, because I think on either end of that thing, my family came along. So I was at the I was at the workshop and at a hotel, and my family was camping.
Yeah, I mean,
in Banff. And so
fair enough. I mean, I'd be at the hot springs or something.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, I think it might have been Canmore. It wasn't Banff. We were in Canmore.
Okay.
So so I was just recalling where it was.
Nice.
But good times.
Good time. I mean, songwriting is, I find it tricky just because of the idea of, well, lyrics are one thing. Like I can probably write lyrics pretty easily, whether they are silly, lowbrow, or they're like, I want to be a little more sophisticated about it.
Yeah.
Often for me, it's more like, what's the hook? How do you get someone engaged to the actual music? Because I'm a person who likes a good groove. I'm a person who likes like a good feel to something. Give me some James Brown where the chords might not change forever and the words might be terrible, but the actual, like, the feel of it. And then if you added decent words and maybe like some interesting chordal changes, or I don't know how you get there, but have you written anything interesting? Have you?
No, I don't know. Like, the stuff I write tends to sound more hymn-like, or like you've heard it before. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I kind of know where this progression's going. Yeah. So I don't, so I kind of, even when I'm fiddling around, it's sort of, oh, I heard that before. But it's just, it makes me feel good just to play stuff and kind of, I don't know, stuff that makes you feel good. So I haven't come up with anything that's, that I think that I could kind of really put out there that was so different that someone be like, that's so, no.
And I think it's harder these days too, to be unique compared to everything else.
Right. I feel like every time you do it, you can tell that there's an influence from something else.
Yep.
So you can hear where it's from, so that when I do it, it's more like a nod to that. So that's more like what I do is I can take something and then I use a musical idea, and then you can tell where it came from. And so then that's okay. That's sort of, I don't know, on purpose, by design, right? And so you're not trying to rip somebody off or whatever. It's like, hey, I heard this, now I'm going to just put my little spin on it. But I don't think it would be anything that would be.
Well, and when you're figuring these things out, do you sit at your piano and just kind of write it down?
I could do it. Yeah. I sit at my piano. I kind of doodle around a little bit.
Do you ever like have anything plugged in your computer, like change instruments to hear different sounds, or is it just strict piano? Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear, like, singing stuff I can hear in my head.
Right.
And then I play it out on the piano.
Okay.
And then write it down from there. I'm not plugged into, I don't know how to do that yet.
Oh, I was just curious, because I always find it for myself, it's like, if I want to write something, I'll pick up a guitar, but I'm like, I need to figure out what the riff is. Like, what kind of groove do I want to put? So then I have to play bass, like, and just play a bass part. So sometimes I'll record, I just use something on the computer and record one part and just listen to it and then try to layer it a bit and see if I like it or not. Like, I've been experimenting just with some of the videos I put out, just backing tracks. And so I'll just like put a few grooves and then I see if it would go anywhere eventually. But it's kind of, they end up as backing tracks for the most part. But I'm like, where could this go? So I don't know. I like layering and like hearing what's the drum beat going to be like, what's the bass part? I don't know.
I've done that a little bit. Yeah, like with GarageBand. Yeah. And so and that's fun too, because I've gone through and you're listening just to listen to all the different loops and stuff that they have. And you're like, oh, that's neat. And then just dragging them over and seeing like what, and actually I've come up with some fun, just little songs and stuff that way. I mean, it's just, it keeps you kind of engaged in that in your head and listening for different things, which is neat.
Right. And that's as a non-piano player, that's where I find a struggle too, because some piano players, they just find it, I watch them play or whatever, and I'm like, how do you figure that stuff out? I don't know. I do guitar differently though too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't just play open chords because that's boring. But yeah, it's definitely composing and arranging is one thing where maybe you have an understanding of how chords move and vocal movement, but I think composing just from nothing is tricky.
Right.
'Cause
Yeah.
then-
To come up with something fresh. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to have something that puts you to it. Like,
Right.
I don't know, or just be, I don't know, like one way you could be someone who likes to write a lot and journal.
Right.
And so out of all of that, maybe you might, because your brain goes this way, and then, oh, there's a little phrase that works.
Yeah.
Or if you read a lot of people's stuff and you read some poetry or whatever, and you're like, oh, that, and you can take that phrase and kind of build on that. So,
Yeah.
you know, and if you're good with tunes, then maybe you can kind of fit that with
Right.
a bit of a tune and then build out from there. So, yeah.
Well, and that's the Elton John, Bernie Taupin thing where Elton John could write the music, but Bernie Taupin wrote like all the lyrics, like to some of these like songs you think like Your Song and stuff. That's a collaboration of a lyricist and a composer essentially. So it's a tricky thing. I mean, and again, you've done other composing, but again, we won't talk about. People have to talk to you directly and ask about that.
They
I
do.
think that's where they have to break the social barriers and actually chat with someone. So what are you doing these days? Like I shouldn't say these days because these are different, but what have you been doing as like you're a piano teacher and voice teacher in Gwyn. So go from there.
Okay. So, these days, summer, do you want me to?
Let's just go how about we go last summer, pre-COVID
Okay.
stuff. What
So
were you doing before all
pre-COVID,
this nonsense?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was teaching, this past year, I was teaching about 20 students, piano and voice, and singing in a choir in Wetaskiwin, and singing in the big band.
And the choir's name is Dolce.
Oh, Dolce Canto, yeah.
Dolce Canto.
And I think that they're not gathering this year. So I stopped singing with them after our December concert.
Okay.
And was too busy to kind of pick anything up in January.
Right.
And so since I think that they're, they had started, I think, a couple practices, but then didn't continue on. So I don't think they'll be continuing on this fall. So I was a part of that for about 5 years, and awesome. Paul Sweet is the conductor of that group, and he was my high school band teacher, or choir director, and really good. I mean, it's just kind of neat to connect with him again as an adult rather than a student. And then the rest of the people in that choral community were sort of a mix of people from high school or the Wetaskiwin community and area, and so it's kind of fun to kind of sing together and have a group like that. And then the big band, of course, huge amount of joy coming out of that. Like, we just kind of practice on Thursday nights, and then that would keep me busy during the week though too, kind of planning some of the stuff for the concerts and everything. Because
you were like one of the main, we'll say for now, one of the main organizers, right?
Yeah.
It's you and
Sandra. Yeah, sorry, me and Sandra and Dennis, and of course Dennis started the whole band, and I think that the three of us kind of took some of the organizational stuff and sort of, I don't know if anybody necessarily said, you do this, you do that, you do that. It's sort of, this needs to be done. I can do it. Do you want this to be done this way or that way? And so we just sort of filled in the gaps of what needed to be done, and for each of these things. So Dennis is the artistic director, and he picks all the music and stuff. And Sandra was directing us this year. So that was good. Have a conductor there. And I mean, it feels weird because it feels like it's just been a long time. So I'm trying to remember back to November.
Yeah, it was November would have been
the
Christmas show, right? Like that was the last time we probably met even. Did we have a meeting after?
We did. We had a meeting in January. We showed our May and or parts of, I think, our May and October and
Right.
November shows in January.
Yeah, I couldn't make
And
it.
some people couldn't make it. And then that same week we had a meeting. So, and then from that point, we just had a virtual Zoom meeting
Yep.
in April. So
we haven't played together
like
since
a long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah, and we were talking beforehand about like what's going to happen with that. We hope it comes back, but you know, it might be a little delayed. Who knows?
Yeah, I think
We might get
it'll probably be a
rehearsals
little
in
bit.
maybe, but we'll see. Have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, that'd be good, even just to get together for a rehearsal
Yeah, because just
outside. Or
playing's fun.
and we need to get together and play. I think.
Well, because that
you know.
group's so interesting too. It's essentially, like, I mean, from my perspective, and it hasn't been going on for that long. I didn't realize it was it's only been not a crazy number of years. It's been getting together, right? Like it's
Yeah, I think 6.
yeah.
Something like that, 6
Yeah.
or maybe like 6.5. I mean, I wasn't there right from the get-go.
Right.
I came in partway through. When I started, I'm just trying to think back when I started singing with Dolce Canto. That same year was my first year with the band. So I started with, and I don't even remember what year that was. I think it was 5 years ago. So
Yeah, but it's interesting because it is like all these music teachers and things like that. Like it's so strange because I'm literally sitting. You're talking about your high school band teacher. I'm sitting between my high school band teacher and my junior high band teacher.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm right there. It's so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Paul Sweet was in that too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I started, he was in that too. So it's weird, like seeing them out of that teacher mode. Ah.
Well,
yeah. And what do you
how
call them? Hi.
I asked Tom, and when I interviewed him, I'm like, what do I like? How long? It actually took
How do I
a
address
long
you?
time to say like Tom. Like call him Tom instead of like
Yeah.
Mr.
It
Spila.
just feels so not right. Yeah.
And it's like we're colleagues, we're peers. What? How did? No, that's not right.
Yeah.
Like, you're still my teacher. You taught me
Yeah.
things. So, yeah. It's
You shall ever be Mr. Spila. Yeah.
yeah, but it's such a solid group of musicians too. Like it doesn't take a lot of. They understand what they're reading. They know what they're doing. For the most part, there's like it's a solid group. That it is hard to get them. Like you think of that many people getting together in one space, and with our current situation, it's a little more difficult. But it's such a. I wish people would want more of that music around. Like,
Oh, I know.
hire the band. If you're
I know.
listening this, hire the band.
Hire the band. Yeah. Battle River Big Band. Yeah. And that's the thing is the events. So getting hired or being able to perform or finding opportunities, I think is one of the challenges that we found that we had in the band is no one wants, I guess, no one wants to hire a band. I mean, it's easier, I guess, to get a DJ and press play.
Yeah.
I don't know. To have live music, I mean,
People
it
don't want
means
to pay
something,
for it.
but they don't want to pay for
No.
it. Yeah. So it's
It's
the smaller groups of, I don't know, if you're being hired by people, then they don't have the budget to do it.
Yep.
You try to do it on stage, well, then really we should be marketing ourselves out a different way and, going around and traveling. And that's the thing, we don't travel. So we're between Camrose and Wetaskiwin. And I mean, if we were to go further and expand in that way, but then that becomes more work. And everybody is pushed to the max in that group with their music endeavors, which is great that they have time for the band. But
there's doctors, there's other people with other jobs that aren't music people. And so getting the same people together, it's tricky.
It's those 2 hours that they carve out that is just like wonderful. And then we are able to get maybe 3, maybe 4 concerts or gigs, in a year. And we can't do any more than that because it is too much for everybody. Because everyone is really quite busy with the other things that they're involved in.
Well, and that's where it's like, it also, we've talked about this even in the band, it has to be worth it too, like financially viable in a lot of ways. And so there were discussions like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And I've had this issue, like I kind of want to make a rant video about this, but like paying musicians, right? I've been approached a few times. It's like, we'll pay you an exposure. And it's like, that's not pay. You're getting paid by these customers or whoever's coming to like for us to show up and get paid nothing. Like it doesn't make sense. So it's a bit, I know it is like when you have that many members, it's a little trickier to pay out, but it's so much easier.
I know.
I think we talked about this in one of the meetings too, where it's like if people just said, "Hey, band, come and play," like, and like just they did everything, and we just would come and play. They'd pay us. That would be like the ideal. But there's so many times you guys put in crazy amounts of work to like plan and advertise for shows.
Because we have to make our own event, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so no one's hiring us, and we're like, well, we've got this to share. We've got this to contribute to our community. We can't let it lie. This is, I mean, we need, this is something people need to come and see, and so we have to make our own. And so, thankfully, we have enough people who know what goes into that. So, we're able to figure out how to advertise or how to promote ourselves somehow, or I don't know what needs to happen for us to be able to perform on stage. But oh boy, like it's a lot of work. And it's good because it's going towards a good end. But oh boy.
Well, and the thing is,
at times like
and it is, and going back to like the idea of payment too, it's like you're not paying necessarily the band members all that. They're not making a lot of money either. It's like to pay for the music, like licensing and all, and like insurance and things like that. Like that's what a lot of the money goes to. It isn't
truly
to pay the members of the band.
No.
So, but oh man, like I love. So there was Carson's wedding that we couldn't do because of COVID. Like a swing dance, that would be so much fun. I would love to do that. That'd be so much fun. Oh. Because there was that swing movement, early 2000s kind of thing, like late 90s, early 2000s, and that'd be just so much fun to do, like a big band swing dance, But I mean, people, first of all, I don't think you can social distance couple dance easily. No, with throwing people around. So, I mean, hopefully the band gets doing something, but we don't know. Hopefully we can figure something out. We'll have some discussions, I think, for the fall, and we'll see what we can do. So well, I mean, that's kind of what, nothing's certain right now. It's kind of frustrating. So then your big band and choir, are there any other groups you're involved with?
Not right now. No. I mean, family life keeps me pretty.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't have to do a lot of driving. The boys aren't involved in a lot of activities, but there is some driving that I'm doing back and forth, and just coordinating all of the activities and stuff with what I like to do. And I do have piano students who come to my house after school, so I have to be at certain places at certain times. So all of that just kind of builds into not being involved in a lot of groups right now. But
you do get, like, your teaching is a good portion of your teaching is during the day at Gwyn School. Okay.
And then I also get some homeschool students too. So so I get to go to Gwyn School, which is basically across the street from my house, and kind of steal a student here and there from their class for half an hour, and
in a safe environment. It's not stealing in a bad way.
No, not really. No. So I just kind of take them from their classroom downstairs for a half-hour lesson and come back up, and then I get the next student, and just it's great for the parents, because being a country school, they don't have to be driving to hither and yon. They can just know that the day that their lesson is, and put the music in their backpacks.
Well, and is that something that you're like, please put your
please include your music on Tuesday lessons. I end up with doubles downstairs just in case, like, I forgot my music today. I got extras.
It's like they have no excuse. It's just like, it's right here. Let's do this.
Here we go. Let me help you out with that.
Well, and
darn.
I think for such an area too, like you say, rural communities and things like that. I've considered, I'm not going to do it yet, but the idea of, like going out to a place, if I had a certain number of students, I'd go drive somewhere and teach, a few students out there, but I just have to figure out what's going on right now.
Well, it's and it's a different way of delivering it, right?
Yeah.
So it's different when they come to you, and, even, I'm just trying to think, like even going to the school is a little bit different. I mean, it's not, because you're you're kind of a part of the day of this, of the, in a way, of
Yeah.
what's happening at the school. So you have to kind of be aware of more than when you are just at home and someone knocks on your door and comes in or whatever. So yeah.
Well, and when I was working through the studio here in town, it was interesting because there'd be times like, oh, I wish I had that with me, and it takes the extra moment of I could print it off, but I'd have to like go and like get my email or whatever and go into my drive and then send it upstairs to the thing, and it was a whole process. Like here, I can just, it's ready to go.
Right, you can print it right there.
The flip of that is it's my home, and that means I have to find ways to get out of my home if I start teaching from here. So it's But I definitely think the idea, because like you said, sometimes it's a little more difficult if you're a rural community to drive. Like if you don't want to drive into town or anything. So that would be the thought of, and I've heard this a few times where people, they go to a school and teach guitar for the day or something. And then they go to another school the next day and they just kind of pop around, that sort of thing. So, and so you do both voice and piano that way, or is it just piano?
So, well, I do piano that way mostly. I've tried some voice lessons that way at the school, and it's just not, it's difficult because people are aware when they're taking their lesson that other people upstairs can hear them. And so, you feel self-conscious, right? Yeah. So in a more private space, which is at my house, I do voice lessons. And so that works out better. I think it's just, I'm aware that it's a little bit, from a student point of view, I think it's, and with the space that I teach in, it's just a little bit too open.
No, that makes sense.
So yeah. So then what I have been doing, and I mean, I can't do it this year, but was I would have on one of the lunch hours, I'd invite any student at school to come downstairs for a half hour, and we did choir. Okay. So off and on, I would just do kind of chunks of the year. I would just kind of set aside before Christmas, or, like as that goal, or at the end of the year. And the students could do, they could pick songs. Like we just did vocal warm-ups and fun stuff together. And then we picked some songs, and I have, a whole bunch of little like younger kids songs. And I was involved with, in Camrose, I did a little bit of, there's a children's choir at Bethel. I did that just before I had some kids of my own. And I also did at Messiah Church, I did some of the children's choir there for, I think, 2 years, maybe tried for 3. And so I have a little, collection of things that work. And so it works well at the school here too, in general, to have a little choir of kids that don't normally, like they don't pay for it or anything like that. They just come downstairs, and it's nice. Just something for them to do.
It's relaxed. They might not get a chance to sing, and it's huge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially, I mean, not to say it's not as important for girls, but like boys, if they're singing, it's huge because guys don't sing apparently. Yeah.
But I get like, half and half.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Nice. Like surprisingly, I always liked it. And if one boy comes down, then maybe his friend comes down. And so, I could end up with half and half depending on just the mix of kids that showed up.
Well, that's good. Because again, probably don't get that opportunity that often to sing if you're in a smaller community.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
So,
because you mentioned you sang all the time with your family because you had a musical family, but also like if you're involved with the church, I grew up singing in the church, all the choirs. So, I mean, if you're giving, that's awesome that you're giving that opportunity to some little kids who might not get that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so let's talk now where we are. I was shut down in mid-March. When were you shut down?
So
you didn't really get
I kind of was able to go through to the middle of May, just like normal, like my schedule, except then I was doing remote lessons. So what happened, COVID, Sandra and I were putting together the event that I've heard you talk about before, and we talked about before, the Dixieland music, and you're calling it Gin and Jazz. I guess that was the title we'd given it.
Yep.
And we were working really hard towards it. And then everything just had to, go. And so that same weekend, I just could see, well, school's probably, I mean, if they're shutting down big events, school's probably not going to be starting up on Monday. There's probably going to be an announcement made. So I got on my email quickly and said to my piano students, I think school's going to be changing. And so we were able to do right away thankfully my parents were on board and we were able to do remote lessons right away, like that. We didn't miss a week. And so it was great. And I got to finish out my year. I think there were 10 weeks, so 10 lessons. I ended up, not having all of my students be able to do that, just different circumstances and whatever. But we finished out the year. And so since mid-May, I just kind of, closed out what I needed to. I've been sort of hanging out. Oh, I guess with the at-home school stuff, my kids had to, finish that
right
at the end of June.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of a bit of a challenge, just to kind of keep everybody motivated in our household to kind of do school.
Was it virtual for them? Like, was it online?
Yeah. And then finished that, and then we got into camping, and and so this week, of course, now I've been getting back into getting ready for next year. So I've got everything lined up, and once I know sort of the direction that we need to take, health stuff wise at school, then I can dole stuff out to parents and stuff. So
well, and I think you're teaching a pretty safe instrument for that sort of thing, because they're saying wind instruments are the ones that are hard, but piano,
right. Yeah, piano, I just have to keep my distance, I think, and put a mask on if I'm going to be close.
Yep.
And so, and I've got a little keyboard I can use for demonstrations too. So, I don't have to be, I don't ever hover, but I don't have to be like right there.
Yeah, like sitting right beside.
You can just have it. Yeah. I have a seat that is apart from where my kids play. So students play. So all I have to do is have a second keyboard right there.
Right.
Just to be able to demonstrate stuff. I don't have to scoot them off the bench or anything.
Yeah. And so how big is the room you're in then? Is it a decently sized room?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's kind of an oblong shape, but it's kind of like
so you can get
an open area.
The 2 meters you need?
Yeah, I can get the 2 meters.
Because I know the studios I was teaching in, you couldn't get the distance
tight. Yeah.
Because they were such small rooms, there wasn't enough space. So especially on drums or something.
Oh yeah.
So that's one thing I think is huge, because I haven't heard much about, since Alberta released their guidelines. I'm not sure what it's going to look like in the fall for some of these individual schools like Battle River Division or whatever.
Yeah.
So
just kind of waiting to hear the final word kind of a thing, and can move on.
Yeah.
Start up.
Oh, totally. It's so interesting though, because so you had your students, you were able to go online pretty quickly, you said. You were able to switch. Because I've had people here in town seem to have difficulty with online.
Oh.
I don't know if internet infrastructure is just terrible, or people are terrible with technology. So
yeah. There was what I did at the beginning for the first 3 weeks is I had them, because I wasn't sure how they would take to it with the live lessons.
Right.
And so I had them record themselves, so they knew what they had to do because of my notes.
Yeah.
And then they would just record themselves and send that in an email. Okay. And then for 3 weeks I was just giving notes and just sort of, then I put out, how I put out polls all the time with my organizational, with the band, I put out polls all the time. So I put a poll out just to say, okay, can we switch this up to live? So like a Zoom meeting or whatever. Okay. And so, so we went to, I did a lot of the Messenger live video calls, and the students could set up their phone or iPad or whatever they had, and do their lessons that way. And that tended to work pretty well.
Yeah.
And then I would just type up lessons and email them and send any links to any other information. And I found that I was doing a lot of videos. I did probably 50 videos, YouTube. So I'd set up if I had ever taken a picture of this, it would have been pretty funny to see, but I'd set up my camera from my phone on the piano, and then would play something so that you could see the keyboard, and then just rotate the keyboard in the shot and then send that. So it would look right, but I was recording it upside down, Oh, no, fair enough. So I did like little tiny things, about 50 little videos. And
I'm assuming they're unlisted, like people can't watch
unlisted. There's kind of, so they could access them as many times or not, or whatever. It was there. The resource was there.
Yeah.
The difference is that parents have to be involved a little bit more in the remote lessons. So it's more work to kind of get the stuff sort of set up and sent out. And then the parents have to relay this stuff. They're the ones sort of relaying it, or, to younger students, or, whatever. So yeah, that part's a little bit tricky. And I can see how there'd be a bit of a learning curve on that for everybody, especially if they haven't done it before this fall.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think that in general, I think there's a learning curve when it came to just even getting school working. There was like a run on like Google Chromebooks and stuff. Like people, they were being sold out because people were like, I don't have enough laptops apparently or something to run school.
Right.
I mean, people were just kind of panicking.
Yeah.
And I mean, that probably won't slow down when it comes to fall because people don't know what school's going to look like. But how have you found the idea of like, let's say just like a Zoom meeting, online meeting, or Messenger meeting? How have you found those in general across the board?
To compare them, or just how they
Like,
function
let's
as
say
a lesson?
compared to like just with your students, like younger, older, how do you find just running a lesson that way?
Well, the older ones can handle it a little bit better.
Okay.
And I think there's like, when it comes to kind of setting up a lesson there, the environment is, I guess the feel, I guess you could say, is a little bit different. The student, I think, feels like they're put on the spot a little bit more because they have to record themselves, I guess. Like, so when you're doing a live one, and this is, I think, why I switched from the recording ones and sending it in as an email compared to just doing it live, because I just want a snapshot, right? Like I want to see where you're at, and we're going to talk about that today. And this could be how you are today, and weren't yesterday, or weren't 5 minutes ago, but this is how you are now. So I think in one way, it's a little bit stressful for it can be for students,
Right.
to have to set that up and do that. And then the technology thing, if it's not working and stuff, right? Because they want it to, work out well.
Right.
But I have to say, like, it worked out okay to teach this way. We could get the information across, and I felt like I was clearer in able to, I guess, give an example, like, shoot it on the piano, my camera on the piano, or being able to send more information and resources. And certainly with typed lessons, people can read them a lot better than as you're writing them during their regular in-person lessons.
Well, sometimes you're not like, I've often found that, I'm teaching, so I'm not going to be like writing as I'm teaching at the same time. So, you could have you can almost think about your words a bit more if you are writing it out.
Right.
And so there's no excuse if you don't know what you learned. Like if you forget what you learned, it's like, it's right there.
Right.
I should have voice to text running when I'm doing online lessons.
Yeah.
That would be so handy.
That
and then I'll just edit out the stuff that I...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a thought.
Solved.
By the way, we are low on time. So if anyone has questions, if you're watching, put them there. Otherwise, we're just going to continue a bit longer, and then that'll be it. So one thing I found with like little kids, I don't know how well they would handle like this kind of thing.
Right.
When you mentioned recording, I think that's actually really smart because when you're recording, you want to be better. And so you might record it once, be like, oh, that was bad. And then do it again. And then, so you're actually practicing. It's almost like you're practicing to get it. And just so your teacher's like, good job, gold star.
Yeah. I think, that's exactly it. It makes them able to go through it more than once, but I think too it becomes a frustration because then they're like, oh, I just need to do this one more time, and then they'll try to play through it, and maybe something bad happens in the middle that they weren't expecting, and then now I have to start over. So I think that the stress of that, I don't know, because the parent is seeing all that. You as a teacher aren't seeing any of that part of it, and so the parents are like, yeah, this isn't really. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so, sometimes I get a parent writing in just saying, here's what we got. We did our best. It just wasn't coming together. But and so you look at it and you go, okay, you can tell as a teacher if they've what kind of fell apart, or oh, it's just a little fingering there, or oh, all you have to do is just slow it down and I'll break it down for you, or whatever. And so they worried a lot, I think, at the beginning about it being a performance, and I was like, no, it's just a snapshot. It's just where you're at. And so if we can view the lesson like that, this is the snapshot of what you're doing right now, and then we can kind of move from here to there. If you were able to do it yesterday and can't do it today, then you can do it. So another day you might be able to show me.
Well, and that might be an idea for, instead of just like record the snippet, even just have, put the camera on, you play it a few times and just like, don't even like concentrate on getting it perfect. Just play it through like 2 or 3 times. Camera's going to roll, whatever happens, and that's it. And see where it goes. So Rob McMillan asks, is there a way of saying to the student, that's what you really need to practice? Is there a way of saying that?
That's what you really need to practice?
That's
like
what
as in,
you really need to practice. That's in
like
quotes.
right there. Like
That's the question.
okay, that's what you really need to practice. Like that's what you need to work on?
Yeah, maybe, sure.
Right there, yeah. I don't know what he's referring to.
What are you referring to, Rob?
Like,
Clarify.
yeah, Rob, tell us. What are you referring to?
Well, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Like, I agree with also like the recording thing. You can see like if this is how you're like, it's almost when they are frustrated. That's what Rob says.
And that's what you really need to practice.
Yeah.
Is like that's the part that you need to do is when they recognize that they're frustrated, that
Maybe. Well, and that's
where you need to slow down and break it down. Yeah.
I'm honestly a person who says, take a break, go step outside, take 5 minutes, do something else, and then come back.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. Leave it for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's becoming too much right now. And then sit down sit down in 5 minutes. Yeah. So, or water, because the kids won't have
coffee. Won't be helpful if you're getting frustrated either. You'll just get hyper. Yeah, totally. Hopefully that answers your question, Rob. It is one of those. No, and I think this is where parent involvement is huge to lessons. I'm going to segue to that because
yes.
Yeah, it's where you need them to be in the room and seeing what's going on. If the student is just getting mad at things because maybe they just don't want to be there, doing this, like, the teachers don't know. We don't know how kids are practicing.
And I think that's the other thing is you get a little bit of an insight into their practice space, sort of the environment that they're in when they are supposed to be practicing, and sort of what's going on around them. Is it a noisy room? Do they have, do people leave, are they maybe upstairs and the student is practicing in the basement, or however? You get a little bit more of an insight into that when you're doing the live lessons or a recorded lesson. I was just thinking about like the young kids, the ones that are, say kindergarten, grade 1 age, they do need more parent involvement, and they actually maybe need somebody to hold the camera for them, or be able to place their finger on a certain note if they can't, if they're not understanding what you're saying. And so, I mean, it's only a half hour. So, I mean, if the parent can be there, or somebody who's, older can be there to hear that instruction, if they can see that there's just a little disconnect in the information, then they can help, and it helps the lesson quite a bit.
Well,
not everybody needs that.
No, and it helps. The parent will learn a bit too. It's a free lesson
for them. They do, and that's perfect. It is, and that's it. Like, I think that for them to be informed is awesome, because then when they hear something go, oh, that wasn't quite what I thought it would be, they can jump in now during the week.
Right.
And they can be helpful to the student, or at least have a conversation with the student about what's going on. Yeah, because I'll get so many times your teacher.
Yeah, and then I'll get the parent being like, "So what'd you learn today?" to their kid, and I'm like, oh, "Do I have to tell this? I just went through this with the kid for a while. You could have stepped in the room, anything." Right. But now at this point, I can actually like say, "Okay, email me," and I can figure something. We can. Yeah,
the accessibility is a bit different now.
Yeah.
And for sure,
we could probably go on for a long time, but I think I'm going to cut us off at this point. Okay. So thanks, Deanna, for coming again. Hopefully people watching this live or whenever, learn something about you. And hopefully we can get back to doing stuff again. Maybe we'll have to figure out a time to because we did gazebo jams last summer. Maybe we'll have to figure out something like that. Maybe if it's only like a few of us, like doesn't have to be like 800 people, but So
gazebo jam.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. And thanks, Deanna, again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all next time. Next week, I have to double check with the guest, but if you go to my Facebook page, Stephen Hartman Music, you can check in who's going to be on next week. It's somebody from the big band, but I have to confirm with them still. Double check. I just want to double check so I'm not saying their name and then they're not going to be on. But it's somebody that people might want to watch for because they are somebody in cameras and stuff like that. I won't give too many hints after that. Anyhow, so check my Facebook page, Stephen Hartman Music, and I'll post the event there. Yeah. Thanks again, Deanna.
Okay.
And
See you.
see y'all next video, I guess. Yeah.